Things. Tonight we're going over the division property of exponents. Again, notice that we have our note up here, and in order to use these properties, remember the base must be the same. So our bases must be the same in order for us to use these properties. Let's look at our first property here for division. We have a to the m divided by a to the n. Notice that our bases are both a's, so therefore we can perform our property. And what we do for division is we're going to do the opposite operation of multiplication. So yesterday when we were talking about multiplying exponents, we would add together the exponents. Well, for division, we're actually going to subtract the exponents. So if we have a to the m divided by a to the n, we're going to actually have an answer that is a to the m minus n. Let's work a couple example problems. Here we have x to the 9th divided by x to the 6th. Notice that the x's are the same, so we can go ahead and use this property. So we're going to have x to the 9 minus 6, and then 9 minus 6 is 3. So our answer would be x to the 3rd. Now let's go ahead and write it out like it would be here. If I had written this out, x to the 9th, then I would have 9 x's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And all 9 of those x's are being multiplied together. And on the bottom we have 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we know that every time we divide something by itself that we get a 1. So it's essentially canceling itself out. So let's see how many of these we can cancel out. So this x divided by this x cancels, this x divided by this one x divided by this one divided by this one divided by this one, and this one divided by this one. How many x's do we have left in the top? We have 3. Remember, these are being multiplied together, so x times x is going to give us x to the 3rd. That's our exponent. So notice that's how this property works. Now let's do our second example here. We have x to the 5th divided by x to the 8th. Again, our x's are the same, so our bases are the same, so we're going to apply this property and we're going to subtract our exponents. Make sure that you notice that it's always going to be the numerator minus the denominator. So on this one, that becomes really important. So we have x, and then we're going to have the 5 minus 8. Now what is 5 minus 8? Well, that's going to give us a negative 3. And remember, back from negative exponents, whenever we have a base being raised to a negative exponent, we must move that piece down into the denominator with the negative exponent rule. So our answer in this case is actually 1 over x to the 3rd. Now let's look at this example spelled out like this. So we would have 5 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the top, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the bottom. And now let's find our pairs. So these would divide to 1, 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 and these would divide to 1. Notice that we have our 3 x's this time in the denominator, and whereas our x to our 3rd in our answer, it's in the denominator. Now let's look at our next property. Here we have a quantity, a divided by b, being raised to the m power. So whenever we don't have an exponent here, we assume that exponent to be 1. So again, like just in last night's video, we're going to put 1s in here for the a and the b. From multiplication, you notice that when you had something outside, you would then multiply it because it's a power to a power. Well, you do the same thing for division, except for we're going to be multiplying it times this number and multiplying it times the denominator's power. So we would have a to the 1 times m, which is m, over b to the 1 times m, which is m. So essentially, we're distributing this power to the numerator and to the denominator. Let's look at an example here. We have x divided by y raised to the 6th power. Remember, it's understood that there's a 1 there if there's no exponent written there. And so we're going to have a power to a power here and a power to a power here. So we distribute that 6 to both pieces. So we would have x to the 1 times 6 over y to the 1 times 6, and 1 times 6 is 6. So we have x to the 6th over y to the 6th. And that would be our answer. That concludes the notes for the division properties of exponents. Make sure that you go on and fill out your video summary, and you'll have a great night.